So apparently the Fever just leaked their starting five. According to this graphic right here,
a significant starting five leak that has everyone talking suggests that the Indiana Fever may have just turned the WNBA upside down. Caitlin Clark-Mitchell, Kelsey Bonner, Dana Aaliyah Boston, and Natasha Howard. Yes, that is the anticipated lineup. We're talking about 5 All-Stars, the previous 2 Rookie of the Year winners, and 3 players on maximum contracts sharing the court. Don't worry, we're just getting started. Stay tuned as we go over all the different lineup combinations the Fever could employ and why every other team should be paying close attention. This team has 9 players who could legitimately start depending on the game, and Stephanie White will later disclose the offensive scheme she intends to employ to manage all this talent.
Yeah, this is apparently what it's going to be. Caitlin Clark at the 1, Kelsey Mitchell at the 2, DeWanna Bonner at the 3, Natasha Howard at the 4, and Aaliyah Boston at the 5.
The real headline may be Sophie Cunningham's surprising response to her new role, which suggests that this team may finally have figured out the formula for winning a championship. But first, let's examine what makes this particular 5 so special. What does this monster of a lineup mean for the rest of the WNBA, and how will chemistry develop when you have this much talent in one locker room?
In order for the Fever to achieve the goals that they have in front of them, everyone is going to need to buy into their role, and it's up to Stephanie White to put the best lineups out there, the best lineup combinations, and all of that. I took a stab at projecting what the starting 5 will be, and it's, not a huge leap, but obviously Caitlin Clark's going to be the point guard.
Everyone will have to commit to their roles if the Fever are to meet their objectives, and Stephanie White will have to choose the best lineups and combinations. I tried speculating about the starting 5, and it's not a big change, but Caitlin Clark will undoubtedly be the point guard. It all begins with Caitlin Clark, the generational player whose vision and unrestricted shooting range are already changing the way the game is played. She sees passing lanes before they even open, and people say she needs to be guarded the moment she walks into the gym.
Listen, you talk about players that change the game when they're on the court, whether they're touching the ball or not. You have to guard her when she steps into the gym. And so I don't think we've seen anything like that in women's basketball. I've played against a number of great shooters.
Yes.
Somebody that when they walk in the gym, you have to guard them. And I think the way the game is played has allowed her to showcase that skill, to be able to take that shot's being a good shot. It speaks to where basketball is.
Next to her is Kelsey Mitchell, one of the league's most prolific scorers who averaged over 19 points per game the previous season thanks to her ability to create shots against anybody.
The shooting guard, the most potent backcourt in the WNBA. I think DeWanna Bonner will be the Swiss Army knife kind of player at the
Dana Bonner, who is 6 feet 4 inches and has championship experience, is a walking matchup nightmare on both offense and defense. Kelsey Mitchell, the shooting guard, is the WNBA's most formidable backcourt player, and I believe she will be the Swiss Army knife type of player at the 3. 2023 Rookie of the Year Aaliyah Boston, who naturally anchors the post, is a defensive force who excels in transition and knows how to perform in pick-and-roll scenarios. Her footwork strength and high IQ in the paint make her a challenge for anyone attempting to guard.
Natasha Howard fills that hole that they had at power forward, especially they were lacking somebody who could run the floor, catch, and finish. Aaliyah Boston is the center who doesn't hunt for shots but can be a key cog on both ends.
They needed someone who could run the floor, catch, and finish, and Natasha Howard fills that void at power forward. Aaliyah Boston is a center who can be a vital component on both ends but doesn't actively seek shots. Every player in this lineup complements the others, and the floor spacing will make opposition opponents' jobs a nightmare. Consider doubling Boston goes to work inside, while Clark Mitchell will force you to pay attention to the perimeter. Both Bonner and Mitchell Howard are capable of hitting threes. This starting 5's combination of defensive playmaking and scoring makes it practically impossible to keep them straight.
Offered to load up on Kelsey Mitchell last year because Caitlin Clark was there, and when Kelsey's able to get out in transition, she's so fast, and when she's able to take you one-on-one, there ain't much you can do.
Not to mention Clark and Boston's developing relationship, which has the potential to make them the WNBA's most dangerous young team. The combination of Clark's laser-guided passes and Boston's screens and rim rolls is a highlight reel waiting to happen. Don't take it from me. Stephanie White is already praising them and referring to them as a future all-time duet. Their chemistry will only become stronger, and they already have the makings of one of the greatest tandems we've seen in years.
Think about the great point guards and post players that our game, not just our league, but our game has seen. They are going to go as the greatest. And I'm excited about the opportunity to work with them. I'm excited about the opportunity that we have to build from those starting points and build out, and for the longevity that those two could have in Indiana, in Indianapolis, and hanging banners in this building.
The Las Vegas Aces and New York Liberty should take note. The A's smaller lineup may be punished inside, and the Liberty's defensive rotations will be stretched trying to cover all 5 weapons. This isn't a build for the future team anymore. The Fever are trying to win right now. When you consider the great point guards and post players that our game, not just our league, but our game has seen, they're going to go down in history as the greatest. I'm excited about the opportunity to work with them and build out from those starting points and hang banners in this building together. This group of 5 brings over 80 points per game from the previous season, with Clark orchestrating the offense.
Cunningham, the first player off the bench to provide lineup versatility and shooting. Either way, there are a lot of options.
There are many choices, but don't ignore what could be Indiana's most important X factors. Cunningham is the first player off the bench to offer lineup versatility and shooting in either direction. Cunningham Sophie and Hull Lexi Sophie's reaction to leaving the bench was one of pure class, devoid of ego or frustration, and filled with desire to help Clark and contribute in any way she could. This is not only uncommon in professional athletics, but practically unheard of.
I saw Sophie Cunningham talk about how she is thrilled to join a supporting role next to Caitlin Clark and that she's playing on a stacked Fever squad.
I watched Sophie Cunningham discuss how excited she is to play on a stacked Fever squad and play a supporting role with Caitlin Clark. Consider it. How many times have we witnessed veterans struggle for a bench position? Allen Iverson turned down Memphis and left the game. Carmelo Cunningham's full buy-in may be the cultural glue holding this team together. It's a sacrifice that could ultimately be the key to their success. Anthony battled with the Rockets when his role didn't match his expectations.
Sophie Cunningham, who I mentioned before, who I do think will be the first player off the bench because of all of the things she can bring to the team, where they can go small with her and spread the floor. I mean, you can go real small. You could play Howard at center and Cunningham at the 4, something like that. Really space the floor out and give teams a different look. She can play a traditional spot on the wing, of course. And she has a little bit more, I think they're listed at the same height, but she has a little bit more length and size, I believe, than Lexi Hull. And that's, another shooter out on the floor.
Championship caliber teams are driven by players who fully embrace their roles rather than just talent. And Sophie Cunningham's selfless attitude is exactly what makes her so valuable to the Indiana Fever. It also signals a significant cultural shift in Indiana, where team success takes precedence over individual stats. This is the mindset head coach Stephanie White needs to take this group of stars and turn them into genuine title contenders. Cunningham's capacity to protect several spots as the projected 6th woman, she gives Indiana an advantage that most teams lack. Her skill set could easily start on other teams, but instead of vying for attention, she is laser-focused on what will help the Fever win. This kind of self-awareness and maturity is uncommon and crucial for any team with championship aspirations.
Then there's Lexi Hull, who was relied upon a little bit too much a season ago. Lexi's a little undersized to guard some of the players that she had to guard and would get in foul trouble. And when she got in foul trouble, it was really debilitating for the team. Now I think she can bring that energy all the time and not have to worry about the foul trouble because of the lineup versatility that they have. For Lexi, the key is, can she continue to hit at the clip from 3 that she did the second half of last season? And she's got to get better at finishing around the cup. I mean, that's an area of...
And then there's Lexi Hull, who was used a bit too much a season ago. As you may know, she's a little undeyized to guard some of the players that she had to guard and would get into foul trouble. Now that they have lineup versatility, I think she can bring that energy all the time and not have to worry about foul trouble because of Lexi. The key is whether she can continue to hit at the three-point shooting clip that she did in the second half of last season. And she needs to improve at finishing around the cup. I mean, that's an area that needs work. Pause your answer if you need someone to space the floor and shut down an opponent's top scorer. Lexie Hall is a gritty defender who brings full-court pressure and never takes a play off. She quietly led the entire WNBA in three-point shooting percentage last season, whether it was diving for a loose ball or making a timely corner three. Despite not being very noteworthy, Hall's efforts are vital.
We've seen a lot of Brianna Turner working out with the team. I think her ability to set screens, hopefully catch and finish, could give her some minutes, because Aaliyah Boston really the only kind of what you would consider a center on the squad at this moment.
I think we've seen a lot of Brianna Turner working out with the team. I think her ability to set screens, hopefully catch, and finish could give her some minutes, because Aaliyah Boston really the only kind of what you would consider a center on the squad at this moment. Then there's Brianna Turner, the unsung hero of Indiana's interior game. She's not someone you'll see taking over on the scoreboard, but her ability to set brutal screens and finish plays in traffic makes her a perfect complement to playmakers like Caitlin Clark. With so much attention drawn to shooters on the perimeter, Turner becomes a key finisher in the paint, capitalizing on all the space that Clark's gravity creates. Meanwhile, Lexie Hall and Brianna Turner form a defensive duo that keeps Indiana's energy up. When the starters rest, Hall's hustle keeps the tempo high, while Turner protects the rim and cleans up the glass. They're the glue players. Every successful team needs doing the dirty work, staying locked in and making sure there's no drop-off in intensity when the bench comes in.
Maybe plays a little bit more than we figured, because Clark will get spelled a bit more often this season, I would imagine. I also could see some Clark Colson two-guard lineups out there at times to let Clark play off the ball a little bit more, to let Colson apply defensive pressure.
Possibly plays a little bit more than we anticipated, because Clark will be substituted out a bit more this season. I would also anticipate seeing some two-guard lineups with Clark Colson occasionally to allow Clark to play off the ball a little bit more so Colson can apply defensive pressure. Not to mention Sydney Colson, who has a demanding sophomore campaign ahead of him. When Clark takes a break, Colson's presence provides the Fever with a steadying, experienced voice to keep the ship afloat. Her leadership guarantees that the offense doesn't pause, since she is skilled at controlling the clock, directing traffic, and keeping everyone engaged. However, what sets this Indiana Fever squad apart is how their bench replicates their starters. Their playing style remains constant, the pressure never lets up, and the opponents never get a break. This kind of unrelenting intensity is extremely uncommon in the WNBA and transforms close games into decisive victories by the fourth quarter.
Clark in motion more this year to free her up for cleaner looks. Clark's three-point percentage was not probably where it needed to be. I think one way to get that up is to get her cleaner looks off the ball at times, though she should still have the ball the lion's share of the time. What they really did do is add those rim runners.
You'll notice that Clark is moving more this season in order to give her cleaner looks. As you may know, her three-point percentage was probably not at its best. I believe that one way to improve that is to give her cleaner looks off the ball occasionally, even though she should still have the ball most of the time. Now, let's talk about something revolutionary. The Fever's plan to use Caitlin Clark this season will defy your preconceived notions about how point guards are typically used in the WNBA. Instead of using the typical setup where the floor general stands at the top of the key and yells out plays, Indiana is adopting Golden State's Stephen Curry strategy and keeping Clark moving. What did Stephanie White say about her approach to leading the offense?
We want our players to use their instincts and to play free. We want to make plays, not run plays, right? We want to have sets that give us certain spacing that we want, depending upon our rotations, who's on the floor, who we want to attack, what matchups we want to get to, how can we manipulate them. So we'll have certain play calls that just give us space to operate, and then whichever play we make, whichever pass we make, determines one of three actions that our players can read from. And so really giving them the freedom to play within a system.
I also want our players to play freely and follow their instincts. You see, we don't want to run plays. Instead, we want to have sets that give us specific spacing based on our rotations, who's on the floor, who we want to attack, what matchups we want to get to, and how can we manipulate them. So, instead of slowing things down, Clark passes the ball and immediately darts around screens, cuts back door, and moves to unpredictable spots. It's organized chaos, with defenders circling in an attempt to keep up with a shooter who can pull from 30 feet with ease. We're talking full court cardio just to stay in front of her.
You know, when you have more weapons, a lot of people are worried. I don't think they have players who need the ball to score, but they have more players who can score, which is going to make it tougher to load up. It was already tougher to load up on Kelsey Mitchell last year because Caitlin Clark was there. And when Kelsey's able to get out in transition, she's so fast. And when she's able to take you one-on-one, there ain't much you can do. And then Clark, the same thing. What are you going to do now? You're going to have to pick your poison because you're going to send the whole defense at her again. Well, she's going to pick you apart. You know, they have 5 players who are in the top 30 in scoring.
It's not just clever. And then, of course, when you have more weapons, a lot of people are worried. I don't think they have players who need the ball to score, but they have more players who can score, which is going to make it tougher to load up. It was already tougher to load up on Kelsey Mitchell last year because Caitlin Clark was there. And when Kelsey's able to get out in transition, she's so fast. And when she's able to take you one-on-one, there ain't much you can do. And then Clark, the same thing. What are you going to do? Now you're going to have to pick your poison because you're going to send the whole defense at her again. Well, she's going to pick you apart. You know that they have 5 players who were in the top 30 in scoring last year. It's not just clever, it's devastating. Defenses in the WNBA are built to handle standard playmakers, not this type of dynamic, free-flowing movement. And with teammates like Natasha Howard and Dana Bonner, who excel in transition and cutting to the rim, the system becomes nearly impossible to stop. Defenders can't leave Clark, but if they stay glued to her, they give up easy looks inside.
What the Fever really needed last year, they got killed on the boards at times. They got killed defensively at times. They lacked a little bit of toughness and oomph. And I think, collectively, the new players fill that mold. I mean, they got players that have been around the block. Sophie is tough and tenacious. That Dewana Bonner has been in every situation imaginable, right? So all of that is huge. Same with Howard. That experience, that's something Sydney Colson talked about, who also has the experience. Everybody that's coming in is having the experience, and it's not often you see such a drastic overhaul.
You know what the Fever really needed last year? They were killed on the boards, they were killed defensively, and sometimes they lacked a little bit of toughness and oomph. I believe that the new players collectively fill that mold because they have players who have been around for a long time. Sydney Colson mentioned that Sophie is tough and tenacious, and you know that everyone who is coming in is having the experience. It's even more difficult when Clark moves through the pain because Howard and Bonner time their cuts to perfection. Defenders switch or hedge, they are immediately punished. And let's not forget Hull and Cunningham, who are lethal shooters who space the floor and punish any defense that dares to falter.
Here, I basically said there were 4 reliable players in Clark, Mitchell, Boston, and Hull. Everybody around that has been reconfigured, and the coach. And the coach has familiarity with Bonner. She also has familiarity with how to guard Caitlin Clark.